Ethan Mercer's fist pounded the air with a relentless rhythm, each strike cutting through the sterile ambiance of New Elysium Academy's training hall like a blade desperate to carve its mark on the world. Sweat trailed down his temples, a testament to the ferocity of his exertions. Around him other evolvers floated, conjured fire, or manipulated shadows with a casual ease that made their abilities seem as natural as breathing. Not for Ethan. For him, every attempt to awaken his Genesis code was a battle, a war waged against his own genetics. "Come on," he growled under his breath, muscles tensing and releasing in a dance of controlled desperation. His peers showcased their talents with a flourish, their smug grins and effortless displays a constant reminder of his own stagnant progress. They wielded their powers with the finesse of Meister Os conducting symphonies, while Ethan felt like a lone drummer pounding away in the dark, offbeat and unheard. He envisioned the barrier in his mind, a dam holding back a surging river yearning to break free. It was opaque, seemingly impenetrable, but Ethan was certain that somewhere within its depths lay a crack, a weakness he could exploit. "Break," he commanded silently, pouring every ounce of willpower into the thought. "Shatter." The raw determination etched lines of concentration across his face, his eyes narrowing as if he could physically see the chains restraining his dormant code. He was an enigma even to himself, a puzzle with all the pieces but no clear picture. And yet he pushed harder, driven by an inner fire that refused to be extinguished by doubt or ridicule. With each breath, Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs, a drumbeat echoing the cadence of his thoughts. "I am more than this. I have to be." There was a spark in him, a latent power that had whispered promises in his veins since birth. It was time for those whispers to roar. Ethan's fists hammered the air, a blur of motion as he danced around imaginary opponents. The sweat poured off his brow, each drop a testament to the unyielding tenacity that fueled him. Every muscle fiber screamed in protest, but he pushed on, relentless in his pursuit of that elusive something that lurked just beyond his grasp. "Come on," he growled, voice rough with effort and frustration. There it was again, that fleeting brush against the intangible veil separating him from his potential. In that singular moment, Ethan's senses sharpened to an almost painful degree. He could practically taste the metallic zing of latent power in the air, feel the thrum of energy beneath his skin. "Show yourself, damn it," he muttered, the intensity of his gaze enough to burn holes through steel. For a heartbeat, his world narrowed to a pinpoint of pure focus. It was there, a spark, a surge within him that hinted at dormant might. His heart leapt, hope surging like adrenaline. This is it. But as quickly as it appeared, the sensation dissipated like mist, leaving him grasping at shadows, gasping for breath. "Son of a—" Ethan swore, clenching his hands into tight fists. The taste of near victory was bitter on his tongue. As he paused, chest heaving and eyes burning with unshed frustration, the room seemed to close in on him. A prickling awareness crept up his spine, the unmistakable sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. He wasn't alone. "Who's there?" The words were sharp, cutting through the silence of the training hall. His usual quiet demeanor was shoved aside by the raw edge of challenge. In the gloom, a figure detached itself from the shadows, a silent observer to Ethan's struggle. Surprise flashed across the man's features, hidden though they were in the dim light, as Ethan's heightened senses pinned him under a spotlight of scrutiny. "Didn't think you'd notice me, kid." The voice was low and edged with something like respect. The mystery man stepped forward, the mere fact that Ethan had caught wind of him suggesting that the boy was far more perceptive than his inability to awaken his Genesis code might indicate. This lad was full of surprises. The figure emerged from the shadows with the grace of a phantom, his movements measured and deliberate. His presence was like a tangible force in the dimly lit training hall, cool and commanding. He surveyed Ethan with an inscrutable gaze that seemed to dissect the very fabric of the young man's resolve. "Who are you?" Ethan demanded. The words felt heavy, charged with a wariness that clung to him like the sweat on his brow. "Name's Gideon Kross." The response hung in the air, delivered with the ease of a man who was no stranger to intrigue or secrecy. There was an unspoken authority in his tone, the kind that didn't need to raise its voice to be heard or heeded. Ethan eyed Gideon, his skepticism etched into the furrow of his brow. "And why are you here skulking in the dark? You got a thing for watching kids sweat? Or is there something less creepy on your agenda?" A faint smile ghosted across Gideon's lips, the only ripple in his otherwise placid demeanor. Impressive awareness. Most would have missed me entirely. "Great, so I've got keen eyes. What do you want? A gold star for me?" Ethan's reply was laced with a sarcasm that couldn't quite mask the tremor of curiosity beneath. "Perhaps I'm just another drifter, captivated by the potential I see before me," Gideon offered, his voice smooth as polished steel. "Potential?" Ethan scoffed. "Could have fooled me. I'm just the Academy's favorite disappointment, Ethan Mercer, in case my mediocrity hasn't made the rounds yet." "Disappointment is often just the shadow of untapped possibility, Ethan Mercer," Gideon countered, his red eyes unflinching. "And besides, names carry weight here, yours included." "Right. Well, glad my name's good for something," Ethan muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. "You always talk in riddles, or is it just when you're trying to impress the underperforming youth?" "Only when necessary," Gideon said, a flash of warmth briefly illuminating his gaze. "And sometimes, to find the truth, one must navigate through enigmas." "Fantastic," Ethan replied, his voice threaded with both irritation and a grudging respect. "Well, Mr. Enigma, if you've got some grand plan for me, I'm all ears. Not like I've got anything better to do than chase after sparks that fizzle out faster than they appear." "Patience, Ethan. Some flames ignite slowly, but burn all the brighter for it." Gideon's words were a calm beacon in the storm of Ethan's frustration. "Patience, right." Ethan exhaled sharply, the tension in his shoulders easing ever so slightly. "Guess I've got nothing to lose." "Except perhaps the shadows that bind you," Gideon murmured, almost to himself, as he turned away, leaving Ethan with the weight of his cryptic words and a sliver of something new. Hope, maybe, or the start of a fire yet to roar to life. Ethan watched Gideon Kross's silhouette coalesce from the shadows, the man's presence as commanding as the calm before a storm. "What do you want?" Ethan asked, his voice low and edged with suspicion, muscles taut as if ready for unseen blows. "Training," Gideon offered simply, his tone laced with an enigma that seemed to stretch beyond the walls of New Elysium Academy. "But not the kind you're used to. I'm talking about honing your focus, wielding control like an artisan, and cultivating patience over the brute force you've been hammering at." Ethan's brow furrowed, his mind racing through the possibilities. "And why should I trust you? For all I know, you could be another charlatan peddling false hope." Gideon's lips curved into a half-smile, one that didn't quite reach the depths of his piercing blue eyes. "Because I was just like you, full of untapped potential, chasing after a flicker of power that always seemed just out of reach." That hit home. Ethan felt the resonance in Gideon's words, a vibration that matched his own restless energy. The mentor understood, really understood, the gnawing hunger for progress that kept Ethan awake at night. "Look," Ethan pressed on, skepticism still shadowing his thoughts. "I don't even know you. Why should I accept your offer?" "Trust isn't given, it's earned," Gideon acknowledged with a nod. "But sometimes taking a leap into the unknown is the only way to find solid ground." Ethan stood there weighing his options like stones in his hands. This was either a chance to break through his stagnant state or a spectacular setup for disappointment. Gideon's offer dangled in front of him, tantalizing, fraught with risk, but shimmering with promise. "All right, let's say I'm interested," Ethan finally conceded, his voice a mix of reluctance and intrigue. "What's your game? How does this unconventional training work?" "Patience," Gideon replied, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. "Patience," Ethan echoed, grumbling under his breath. He glanced down at his fist, clenching and unclenching, as if trying to grasp the elusive spark of his Genesis code. "Fine," he said, looking up again, a new light of determination in his eyes. "Let's do this. You've got my attention, Gideon Kross. But understand this, I'm not your pawn, and I'm not here to play games." With that, the die was cast, and Ethan stepped forward into a future uncharted, the echo of his resolve cementing the decision in his bones.